our dashboarding webcast. My name is Candace Taylor, and I am the Director of Marketing for Cresco International, and I will be the moderator for today's webcast. We first just wanted to start off by thanking you all for joining. The next hour or so will be filled with dashboarding tips and tricks, as well as valuable information we are really hoping you'll be able to take away from the webcast. A couple of quick notes. We will have a Q&A section at the end of the webcast, so you can send us questions anytime during the webcast. You can use the control panel on your screen, or you can also send questions to me directly at ctaylor@crescointl.com during or after the webcast. Also, we will have a recording, and the webcast will be, the recording link of the webcast will be sent out to everyone as soon as the webcast is over. A brief introduction about Cresco before we do get started. Cresco is a business analytics company, and we provide consulting services, IBM analytics software, training, support, and cloud solutions. Sanjeev Datta is the practice director for Cresco and is today's presenter of this webcast. He has over 11 years of experience in performance management and analytics and is the author of the book Cognos Insight. Also, here's also a few of the clients that we service today. You'll see on the screen. Therefore, I'd like to pass the floor over to Sanjeev to start the webcast. Sanjeev?
Hey, thank you, Candace. Welcome, everyone. My name is, as Candace mentioned, I'm Sanjeev. I'm going to be walking you through this webcast for the next 45 minutes to an hour, and we'll be gladly available to take your questions. And so I hope you all can hear me well. I wanted to actually start off with this webinar, and we pretty much do these webinars very often, but this is one of the most popular ones, and the reason is because we get a lot of feedback from our clients and about dashboards and when they're building their data warehouses. And so one of the things that we always mention is that a dashboard is more like a return on investment on your data warehouse or your data in your organization. And so it's very critical for dashboards to be built correctly and to be built where you get a large number of user adoption. And so putting this webinar together has, I could probably say, this has been months and months of research across numerous clients and listening to the voice of customer in different sessions. And so what we've seen on average is by department, anywhere from a mid to large size company in the US develops about 4 reports per month, which is close to 50 reports a year. And so business dashboards is a very good way to keep your users and your clients engaged and updated. So there are a lot of questions that are asked about dashboard designs, information that needs to be uploaded and presented, questions about frequency of the data, and so on. And so, questions about automations as well, and what kind of color schemes to be used. And so many times we see these dashboards are bloated with too much information. So that's how we came up with these concepts of let's pass on some information to put it out there publicly available for end users to listen in and to watch what's a recipe for a dashboard. So here are 5 different points, and I'll get into the details very quickly here. But the first one is choose your metrics that actually matter. So one of the things that we see very often is a lot of times, people want to, you're overwhelmed with data. You want to put, a lot of stuff out there. You don't know exactly what kind of data should be on your company portal. A lot of times you're actually tasked with, go build me a dashboard, and I want to see my financials or my customer information or student information. And so how do you decide what's the best metric? And so one of the most important things that we recommend our clients is, don't include every metric in the organization. Be highly selective and make sure that any metric that goes on your dashboard actually earns a spot on the dashboard. So ask questions such as, how does the metric contribute to my objectives? Where is the data residing? So you know how easily it is to pull that information in, and how frequently you need to update that data. Also, some of the other questions could be, can I design a meaningful metric that measures these contributions, and how easily can I actually update this this visualization? The next point is basically keep it visual. It is a dashboard. It is meant to be visual. We live. I say this jokingly to clients, but we live today in a world of selfies, and clearly, we are surrounded by visualizations. So make sure that you use charts and colors, and I'll get more into the details of this, but when you're starting up the dashboard, have your executive or your team's objectives clearly understood. If a company, for example, is under growth mode, then you're more interested in customer analytics because that's going to be your focus. But if you're in a competitive market, then you want to start focusing on market and social media data that should be incorporated into your dashboard, right? The other thing is that you want to make sure you connect every metric on the dashboard. They should be relatable. I mean, if there's something that doesn't match on the dashboard, then try to put it on a different dashboard, right? A comprehensive view of the business is where you can actually start seeing a lot of user adoption. And one of the things is, you could use the best products out there, you could use the best consulting team or have a best team in-house, but if you don't have a user adoption, then your project is not as successful as you'd wish it to be. And so there's a certain, if you're a Cognos customer, you have Cognos Workspace, you've got Report Studio. So one of the things that we've seen is Cognos Workspace actually works really well in helping build dashboards, as you can leverage existing reports that are already there in your organization. So typically about 95% faster report development if you're using Cognos Workspace. And that will include, it's less technical to other products like Report Studio. It gives you the ability to change your data from tabular to bar charts to heat maps, scatter plots, and so on. So take advantage of that studio if you're a Cognos 10 customer. The other one is visually appealing. Now everyone is looking at the same data at the same time. One of the things that I recommend to our clients is, do a test, and even for those listeners out there today, build a dashboard either tomorrow or sometime next week, and get a group of your team and ask them what's more attractive, what's the most attractive quadrant on the dashboard. Is it the top left, bottom right? What catches their eye? And keep the dashboard as interactive as possible. With the Cognos Rave engine and active reports, that's something that we've noticed a lot of organizations are moving towards. Organizations that are performing really well in their analytical space tend to start using active reports because you can deploy them to mobile devices, and you can apply techniques such as filtering, adjusting parameters, and drilling down to underlying data. And so I'm just going to bring this up real quick. This is, I hope you can still see my screen. This is actually, I'm opening a bunch of reports in a browser, and I'm not connected in this case to a Cognos environment. So these are active reports. What they basically are, they're built in Cognos, and they contain data. So it's very easy to send this report out to different team members in your organization. Now you can also put security in here, so you can prevent anyone from the data falling, the reports falling in the wrong hands. But this is a good way for end users to be able to access their reports. And what also happens is that once you start sending these reports out to end users, you're not actually having to have them come back to the server. So it reduces a lot of loads on these Cognos servers or BI servers, and that really helps in the performance of your analytics solution. So this is very interactive. You can see I can click on the check boxes, and I can kind of slice. If I'm opening this report on an iPad, I can also move these, just slide across and pinch my screen to change the orientation, move the slider if I want, and watch how my data basically just changes, right? So it just depends what kind of data you're looking for, and how you design your reports. Here's another one. This basically just talks about student performance and how students are, average grade based on schools and grade by class, right? So as and when you add more information, you can see there's a little bit of metric out there, so it gives you a good visual appeal within your report. So coming back to the deck over here, let's move on to the next one. The other one is keep it current. You want to make sure if you're building a dashboard, the data has to be current. And if it's not current, it's pointless because we don't make decisions on stale data. And we live in a world where data is dynamic and it's volatile, and so are decisions. For example, for a company, the focus is constantly changing. And I'll give you an example. We have a client who's the first year when they were building dashboards, they were all excited about Cognos and active reports and mobile strategies to get their reports distributed out to end users. And their first year focus was on new customer acquisitions. And so that's the kind of dashboards we all focused on. We did a pretty good job there. And you know what? Now we've got enough customers that we can sustain ourselves and we see a growth, but we want to start focusing on customer satisfaction. We want to focus on things like profitability and revenue growth. And so these items constantly change. So you want to make sure you're in line with your business needs. You're also in line with your clients and what the business actually requires. And then finally, you have easy access. The statement that says, build it and they will come. And as I mentioned before, well, if they can't access it, what's the point of even building it or having them come? And because today most dashboard products out there, including Cognos, they're all browser-based, they're all mobile strategy ready. It's very easy to distribute your dashboards. You can send them out as emails, you can have links to them, you can even have mobile devices and Blackberries and Android phones accessing the same data with security, obviously. So the other thing is always test your distribution before you launch it out to the public. Now, we get asked this very often is, how do we start? Where do we start with, and how do we know we're going down the right path? And so I've put this together to talk about the considerations of your audience. You want to know the 4 factors, which is basically, what is the role of my audience? How can you turn complex information into easy to understand so they can answer those high priority questions? Also, delivery method. Does the form and information fit into the existing workflow? How much time does your audience actually have to analyze the data? If it's fast dashboards that they're viewing, for example, sales reps who are on the road very often and they don't have time to and break it down, but they just want to look at their reports on their phones or their mobile devices and make a quick decision before they walk into the client site. And the other one is the skills match. Now, the skills match, very interesting. Basically talks about, I have an audience, I know they're knowledgeable about their data and they know where the data is coming from, but do they actually understand the complexities in the organization? Do they enjoy digging into the numbers? And what is their analytical capability? Do they feel comfortable with the product, and are they power users or just analytical users? The 4th one is workflow. So how well do you understand your business and the industry terminology? What is the level of familiarity that you need to embed into your natural language? Do you need to add some annotations to make dashboards more clarified for end users? So now we come to the perfect dashboard checklist, and I'd like to start off with the approach, which is the 2nd point here. So the approach, is it a strategic approach, which is more of a high-level, long-term view of performance, or is it more of an operational, which provides near-term, focused, tactical view of performance, right? And then you get down to what is the scope? What am I actually trying to build? Now that I know my approach, what is my am I going to be more focused on function, on process, on customer information, on product information? What am I putting out there? And then finally, you come down to I have my dashboard designed. What is the time period I want to look at? Am I looking at historical data? Am I looking at a snapshot, which is basically performance during a single point in time, right? Or am I looking at real-time data? Am I looking at predictive data? So based on the time periods, you have numerous charting capabilities in Cognos that you can select, from histograms to just plain pie charts or to bubble charts, and they keep adding newer charts on a quarterly basis. The other one is customization. So am I looking at a single view, or am I looking at customized by functionality? Now, when you're building a dashboard, it's a very good way to get your entire group or organization together, because what you're actually doing is you're building the dashboard across the entire organization, which has potential benefits of bringing everyone on the same page. So making sure that you have clean data, and also the detail level. Are you looking at the most critical top level, or will you be providing drill down capabilities to get to the detail level? And before I start showing you some charts and some dashboards, I thought we'll talk about what are some of the building blocks that you require when you start heading down the path of building dashboards, or you're modifying your existing dashboards. And so the first point over here is form. So previously, a dashboard was considered to be a one-pager, but today you'll notice that a lot of these newer versions of Cognos and Active Reports have even Cognos Workspace. They have the capability of multi-tab dashboards, and these are getting a lot of popularity because it's easy to access the data with a single point click. Right? Now, as long as critical information reaches your audience where they can understand and they're looking at the information, it's very important that the form and timeliness, mobility, connectivity, all is included in the form itself. For example, from the table which you're seeing on your screen over here, questions about data frequency, attractive look, live data sources. So for example, am I looking at manufacturing data? Am I looking at details, interactivity, collaboration? And all these constitute the form of the dashboard. And secondly, we've got structure. So structure should support the efficient and meaningful monitoring. So don't use sizes just to fit in the space. You want to make sure that related items are placed next to each other, right? Important items should appear larger and more visually prominent. And then you've got the next one within sub part of structure is the flow. So the flow could be any sequence of events or actions across time. So for example, sales pipelines, customer support, at what kind of stage, operational processes. If you're looking at relationships between widgets on the dashboard could be used on a geographical or organizational or even functional connections. And finally, within structure, we've got grouping. So putting similar items together can bring some logic and accessibility to otherwise a plan, not a plan, but a haphazard dashboard. Okay. Some more design principles. I always say this, and I mentioned this before, but try to get a rough drawing of your design. Do it the old-fashioned way. Do it on paper. Make sure your team, your executives are okay with it before you actually start working on the product. Because you can always go back and make modifications on paper. Much easier to come in, do that on a paper rather than making modifications in the product, right? Make sure it's compact. So if you're trying to build something, try to put it on a single view. It can be tricky sometimes, so try to use appropriate designs for the type of visual that you want to present. And gradually reveal. Do not bombard a user with too much information. I have an example as we move forward, and I'll show you a dashboard that when you look at it, it looks like too much information coming out at you, and it's not very pleasing to the eyes. So try to use levels as much as possible, drill capabilities that will take you to different contents within the metrics. Guide attention. So what is guide attention? So provide alerts, positioning on page. Be sure you carefully use fonts and colors, making visual cues and functionalities to draw the user into things that matter the most, right? Also, a casual use. Keep things for all kinds of users. So, for example, you're building a dashboard, and you might have a new employee or a new team member join your group, and so you want to make sure you accommodate those folks as well. And keep keep your dashboard as clear and concise in description as possible. Lead to action. What this means is basically from what is going on to what we should be doing. Let the dashboard provide information on what to do next based on the criteria that we've already defined. Who should we contact? Kind of an alert. If there's anything that goes wrong, send an email. Automate this process and make sure it's being captured in a back-end database. You make use of the Cognos audit functionality that comes free with the product. We've seen way too many times customers ask, we never made this change. What happened to my report? It just disappeared or it broke. And so when you have this Cognos audit installed, it's very easy to track what changed, and you can go and fix the reports at a breaking point. So that's also something that you should keep in mind. And then customizable dashboards, they should be flexible. They should allow for multi-user setup. Not all dashboards are designed for the entire organization. So there are some that might be designed for a certain group of people, and the others might be for another group. But if you might have some overlap charts or graphs, so make sure that it's flexible and it's very customizable. All right, so this is coming down to the design. Now, the next two sections, I'll talk about the interface design and the information that should be displayed. Now, if you watch your screen over here, the top left corner is what will typically catch your eye, and that has been scientifically proven. That when you're building a dashboard, and if you break it up into gradients or quadrants, your eye will typically fall on the fluorescent, the darkest green on your screen over here. And so as you keep your dashboards as simple as possible, try to get your ideas from website designs. As most dashboards are now available on web links, it makes it easier for an end user to relate to website design. As I mentioned, so in a dashboard, when you're looking at something like this on your screen, the left and top is something that's most viewed. The second one is the down, left, and center, where the human eyes tend to look at and to focus. While you have the right corner and the bottom right, they get less attention. And so using a grid system with series of columns and gaps really helps in designing your dashboard. All right? So here's an example. This is, by the way, today's Wall Street Journal. And if you'll notice, I've actually used red lines to show the different grid systems. Very much like a website design, dashboards should be built the same way. And as I mentioned, you should get ideas from website designs because we're so used to these kind of visualizations. So try to put the important stuff on the left and top, and then from there on, down, left, and center, where the human eyes tend to go. And then the grid system with a series of columns and gaps between those gaps will actually help in consistency. So even on this screen, you'll notice that there are some gaps between the red lines over here, and that actually helps in bringing coherence and order to the page, very much like a newspaper, right? So now, let's talk about the interface. White spaces, between objects, they tend to give a rest to the eye, so that the non-white spaces actually have more of an impact. And so what we've seen is using earth tone colors, like as you're seeing on your screen. They're actually, you can typically start off with a gray and slowly add colors to your design. So if you're looking to increase color brightness, it will attract more attention to a point where it seems more important. So earth tones, they provide much more of a calm tone than unnatural colors. And when you're looking at display colors, so you have the three different categories. The first one is sequential. This is where you can use these for ordering values from a low to high value. The divergent is typically used for critical and midpoints like an average or a zero. And then you've got your categorical, which is basically shows you the different categories by using adjacent colors. And finally, on the slide, we've got topography and background. Now, avoid using all caps as it is less legible than regular text. And this is also something that has been scientifically proven. And when you're using backgrounds, try to make sure that you don't use colors that coincide with the foreground, obviously, because it won't be as clean as it should be. Try to use text where it is separate from the header if you're using a header in your reports or your dashboards. Try to make use of bold text as it shows urgency and a sense of emphasis. Italics also comes across as more of a classy look, so try to use that as well, right? Moving on to the next slide. Now, I think the first point over here sums up exactly what you should be thinking as a designer of dashboard, which is basically, I have data, I need to convert it into a story and make a solution out of it. So for example, as you convert your data into a dashboard, decisions are made looking at the dashboard. And so those decisions, good or bad, mostly good, should help should lead to the solutions and should lead to problems resolution. So we can categorize this in two different ways when you ask the question, what is the right chart for me, right? What is the right chart I should use for the data that I have? And so there are two types of data. And if you are a developer, a power user in Cognos, you probably heard the terminology of dimensions and measures. Dimensions are more categorical and measures are more quantitative. So for example, a dimension could be a region or a product name or product type, employee information, and measures could be anything that you can quantify. So salary, bonus, number of students, revenue, margins, all those, right? So bringing those together. Now, also what's very important is if you're using bar and lines, ensure that the scale is accurate. We've seen this very often where dashboards are built, but if the data is 2 times what the object is, the bar or the line should also be a 2x and not a 1.5x. So make sure that the scale is accurate. We try to avoid 3D scatter plots and pies, just because with pies, typically what happens is the moment you have more than 6 slices, it starts getting a little disturbing to the human eye. So if you have data that has anywhere between 4 to 6 slides, that's a good way to represent on pies. But you also must be confident that your data doesn't have any negative numbers, because if you do, negative numbers don't display very well. I mean, they don't display at all on pies, right? So if you're a Cognos user, if you've been building reports and dashboards in Cognos, this will really help. There's some other products out there. I'm not very familiar with those from a development standpoint, but this is kind of where you can categorize and you can decide what kind of charts do I actually want to build based on my relationship type or my distribution type, my chart type, my data type. So here you see if you have 2 variables or if you have 3 variables, what kind of chart you should be using. We'll be sending out this slide deck, and you have this presentation available on social media. So you can always take screenshots or write these notes down. But if you're using a distribution chart type, if you have 2 variables, look at a scatter chart. If you have 3 variables, look at an area chart. If you're using a composition type, for example, you have data that changes very often but has fewer periods, try to use a stack column, because if you have many periods, a stack column basically just gets out of control. But if you have many periods and you want to use stacked column, stacked chart, you can probably use an area chart as well. Now, if you have static data, good examples would be pie chart, waterfall chart, and stacked 100% column charts as well. Right? So the next one is if you're doing comparisons, and this is what we typically use when you're doing trend analysis. If you have more than 2 variables per item, use a variable width column chart. If you have many categories, you can use a table width embedded chart, and so on. So I won't go into all of these, but if you are a Commerce user and you are familiar with Report Studio, once you start building some of these reports, you will see these options. So it makes it much easier when you know what kind of data you have, and do you have multiple periods, or are you using fewer categories? You can decide what chart to use to build your dashboard. Now, this is a dashboard that I came across, and the moment I look at it, I question myself, right? I mean, am I doing? If I'm a developer, is this the right thing that I should be looking at, or how can I improve these dashboards? So, a few points to remember or keep in mind is try to make your dashboard as simple as possible. Don't make it too complex, and if it is too complex, other metrics built only for yourself, where you can understand what's going on and somebody else cannot. So try to make sure that you build it for a larger audience and for someone who might be new to the team. I don't typically prefer to use 3-dimensional graphs. I don't think I think they're good for gaming industries. I don't think they're good for business dashboards. So try to avoid using bad graphics and underestimating the need for maintaining a dashboard. So, make sure that when you're building a dashboard, they are updated, they're easily updatable, and you can automate this process instead of having to do it manually. Okay. Tips that you can use when you're building your dashboard. Now, what you're looking at on your screen over here is on the top is a column dashboard or column basic widgets that have a lot of background. So you'll notice in the bottom, once you get rid of the background and you start changing the background color from the bluish tinge to more of a white, it makes it much more easier to look at and understand. Same example of here, reduce the contrast between the data and the background. So white backgrounds always help. My favorite 3 colors are white, black, and red when building dashboards. Those are much more easier to read. Here's another example where if you look at the left and right-hand side, you'll notice that the x-axis has rotated labels. So try to avoid using that because it's a little bit more difficult to read. We're not actually accustomed to reading in vertical. So try to use concatenation if you don't want to use the entire month name, as you're seeing on the right-hand side. Here's another one, the title of the chart. That should suffice in this case, and it should eliminate to have a legend. So if you look at the left-hand side and the right-hand side, you'll notice that on the right-hand side we don't have a legend because the title of the report is already informing us about it. Smoothing in 3D, as I mentioned, they look nice, but when you're doing business dashboards, they can make a big difference. So if you look at both of these pictures, you'll notice that you get more information and it's more accurate when you're actually using data points that are non-smoothed out or non-3D. Okay, and try to use color variance. So when you're looking at this, the top part of this page, left and right hand side, you'll notice that the variants on hue or gray show different data series. So it's much more easier to relate. So for example, if you look at Merck and Pfizer, these are actually relatable compared to these over here. So you can make quick comparisons compared to looking at this, which is a little bit more complicated to look and understand. Same thing at the bottom over here as well. This basically is one scale, one measure, so it's easier to kind of look at it in one color. So when you look at it, you know you're comparing apples to apples and not apples to oranges. And so coming down to the design, these are some advanced fundamentals that you can use. One of the things that we've seen gain a lot of popularity is using microcharts. You have this availability in Cognos where you can bring in microcharts inside a crosstab or a list, and they do pretty well. So try to use this as much as possible and wherever it actually fits in. Tree maps, they came about a few years back, but they're also gaining a lot of popularity. It's a very good way to quickly understand what's going on with your data. Also, if you look at geographical maps, very good for high-level details, and you can implement some drill-down capabilities, as well as alerts. Try to prevent over-alerting because too many flashlights are very distracting. So in closing statements, I just want to mention one of the first things I said was a dashboard is basically the best ROI for your data warehouse. So a badly designed dashboard is a costly mistake, right? So try to use some of the tips that we put out there to improve or enhance your dashboard designs. And although a design report can make a dashboard, but a dashboard is not meant to be a report. So keep that in mind. We've seen that a lot, and it can get confusing with advancements in Report Studio, and you can build much nicer reports. But a dashboard is okay. I prefer to let my consumers design their own reports. Have a consumer design it rather than a non-consumer, or have a non-consumer, sit down with the consumer and say, all right, let's do some requirements gathering and tell me exactly what you want, and go back and forth and make it an iterative process where you get feedback and you make decisions based on the final output that the client, your client, actually is looking for. A successful dashboard is measured by how easy it is to use and how well it satisfies its existence. And if you are using your dashboard for internal purposes, you don't have to use a logo. Everyone knows what organization you work for. And get a better grasp of your data. It's most important and very often looked at. Data today is an asset. And if you don't treat your asset like you should, then you're missing out on a lot. So a recommended reading for a good dashboard book is this one by Stephen Few. Stephen Few is one of the best authors out there that I've come across in terms of visualization. There are also other sources that you can access for this information. So analyticszone.com, IBM Many Eyes, Watson Analytics, and some other sources of information. So here are some dashboard designs out there. This is a tree map. This is something that's also getting a lot of popularity, especially if you're pulling in social media information. This is also something that's very easy to look at and break it down, and you can notice that these pie charts just have two slices, so it's much more easy to analyze and understand. And so that's where it brings end of my presentation. I just wanted to mention that we're actually running a promotion right now where if you have Cognos reports, we're going to help you convert them into active reports. What that's going to do is that's going to improve. Well, first of all, we'll walk you through the entire process. If you're new to Cognos, completely active reports is the way you should be heading down. You can put them on iPads. You can view them on desktops. So you can view them in any platform as you prefer. And also, the dashboard tips and tricks that you've seen come along with the assistance that we're providing in moving regular-based Cognos reports into active reports. So if you're interested, we'll send you more information on that. And with that, if you have any more questions, you can always send me an email. That's my email information out there. And I think this is where we come to the Q&A session. So Candace?
Great. Thank you, Sanjeev. Thanks, Sanjeev. Thanks for a wonderful webcast on dashboarding. Just before everybody leaves, we wanted to go through a couple questions that were asked during the webcast. The first question for you, Sanjeev, is can you talk about mobile strategies and how dashboards work for them?
Yeah, so a lot of organizations want to move towards mobile strategies, and so if you are using Cognos as your product, you do have that availability where you can send reports out to mobile devices, iPads, iPhones, Androids. And so one of the things that we recommend is there are some settings in Cognos that you can change that make the reports much more appealing on these mobile devices. So instead of having regular reports go out there, users don't have to pinch on first opening. It automatically fits on the screen. There's some other considerations. I mean, we could send you a list of these, but Okay,
thank you, Sanjeev. The next question for you is, can you shed some light on Event Studio?
Right. So Event Studio is a studio that comes along with the Cognos product. I'll tell you what, it's probably one of the best studios out there, and I don't see it being used very often. It comes along with the product, so you don't have to buy additional products out there. It's a trigger-based studio, so we use it in multiple fashions. For example, one of our clients basically, for the department that we're using Cognos, they have no expertise of the product, and they want reports to be delivered on the third day of the month. And they might make some manual adjustments or whatnot. So Event Studio actually runs a 12-step process in the back end without the end user having to do anything but click one icon. And it basically, after a few minutes, spits out the reports after they've made those manual adjustments. So for the end user, they don't know what's going on in the back end, but it does do a fantastic job. Another place where you can use Event Studio is if you are using, you have reports that go out on a daily basis, let's say 8 o'clock in the morning, and sometimes your back-end processes take a little longer to run. So what you can do is you can have a trigger that says, hey, you know what, every time my back-end systems are done refreshing data, only then will you kick off my jobs for the reports to be distributed out there. So that's another way you can use Event Studio.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sanjeev. The next question is, how do you distribute dashboards?
You can distribute dashboards multiple ways. So in Cognos, you have this thing called bursting, where you can burst reports. It's pretty cool technology where you build one report, and it can be distributed by the number of recipients, each of them receiving just the information that they should be looking for. For example, for a university, for students who are looking for their grades, or for a bank that's sending out bank statements, they actually build one report, but they break it down by with their student ID or customer ID, and the report is emailed out directly from Cognos, automated, on schedule, on demand, whatever your choice is, and it goes directly in their inbox or to a printer or email. Yep. Any more questions, Candace?
I think there's one more. The last one is Tableau and QlikView. They're getting a lot of user attention. How does IBM Cognos compare against them?
Should we keep it for next time?
Sanjeev,
Yep.
I have one more question for you.
Okay.
Sorry, I was just reviewing the questions. But the question is, Tableau and QlikView, they're getting a lot of user attention. How does IBM Cognos compare against them?
We've had this conversations multiple times, and with our clients, and we've actually had clients who use both products, and some of them have different preferences. But within Cognos, Tableau and ClickView have good visualizations, no doubt about that. But within Cognos too, you have very good visualization. So one of the things that we have actually started is to build custom Cognos dashboards. So for example, if you're looking at, if you have a dashboard and you say, hey, I want my dashboard to look just like that graph, you can make that modification. One thing, the reason why we're an IBM business partner and we prefer it that way is because within the IBM suite, you get not just a reporting application, you also have other options like Cognos Insight is something that's comparable to a ClickView or Tableau. The pros and cons on both ends, but then the ability to go from a very basic stage to an enterprise level. And then also, with the IBM Analytics solution, you've got products like Veracent that do sales performance management. You've got different modules for financial and budgeting that all in the end look at Cognos reports. So if you can customize your Cognos reports and you've got solid predictive type as well as financial engines, I think the comparison there can be debated. But if you are a client that is in a situation where you are doing a comparison between vendors, we'll be more than happy to help you. And you know what? If you feel that Cognos is not the right solution for you, that's absolutely fine. I mean, we have, like I mentioned, a lot of clients who are using both Cognos as well as Tableau. The only thing I would tell you with Tableau is you want to watch out where, and not to throw anyone under the bus over here, but at least in my recommendation, we try to pull multiple data sources together and give you an enterprise view, so that, as I mentioned before, when you're building a dashboard, it is something that the entire organization can view, and it brings the organization together, right? I've seen with other products, it's quicker to build a dashboard, but then you're creating data silos, which is basically every department has their own little set of numbers, and so the entire organization is not on the same page. So that's what our experience has shown us. Anything else, Candice?
Yeah, we have one more question that we just got, and it is, what is the best way to display U.S. maps on the dashboard showing revenue for states and cities, for example?
Sorry, what was that again? What is the what?
What is the best way to display U.S. maps on the dashboard showing revenue for states and cities, for example?
So you could use multiple ways of doing this. Within Cognos, you can implement Cognos mashup services, and what this enables is you could typically use Google Maps if you want to use a Google Map and load your data using Google APIs, or bring Google Maps into your Cognos reporting, and leverage that, and you can zoom in and zoom out, and you can see the revenue per state, per zip code level. You can also use, we have one customer who basically is they're in the drilling business for oil, and they wanted to bring a drilling machine into Cognos and look at the different parts, and the Department of Engineering wanted to understand based on heat maps, and so how the different components of the drill are working. And so you can do the same thing with maps as well. I know an airline that brings the plane into Cognos Maps, and they do mapping around that. So you can import, there's a product called Maps Manager that comes for free with Cognos, so you can leverage that as well. If you want to do other mappings, we can always direct you to products like Esri that are also very good with mapping. But it depends what kind of detail you want to get into and other factors.
Great, thank you, Sanjeev. So we are actually almost up on time. Therefore, if you did send us a question, let us know if we didn't answer your question, or if you still have more questions, you can always email us. My email is shown on the screen right now. We just want to thank you guys so much for joining the webcast. We really appreciate any and all comments that you might have after the webcast. Again, email us. We do want to quickly announce a couple of things. First, we are having a Texas Roadshow coming up for SPSS and TM1 workshops. Those are in Austin, Houston, and San Antonio, and you can see those dates there on the screen. We also have an upcoming Watson Analytics webcast that we're really excited about. We will have a couple guest speakers on that, and it will be hosted by Sanjeev as well. That's March 11th. And then we are hosting another webinar on March 25th with Verisant Incentive Compensation Management. That's another webcast. If you're interested for any of these events or you'd like to register, again, please email me directly and I can get you more information. Thanks again, everyone, for joining. Please feel free to connect with us. Our phone number is 844-6-CRESCO, or you can email us again. This concludes the webcast for today. Sanjeev, did you have anything else that you would like to add?
No, Candice, I just